Welcome to Inspired Women Amazing Lives podcast, where we seek to thrive, flourish, and celebrate amazing women. I am Kimberly Wiggins, and we are hosting Inspired Women who are sharing their lives and their stories so that other women may know that the journey to their amazing life is definitely within reach. We are here every week to share resources and information that will help you along the journey to being that inspired woman leading an amazing life. Be sure to check out our new Marriage of Mindset and Marketing series. It's done quarterly, with the next episode being live at the end of March. On that series, we are hosting live coaching with mindset and marketing coaches who share their insights with business owners so they can experience the magic of coupling mindset techniques with marketing strategies. Be sure to listen in, as there's always a great takeaway for every new and seasoned business owner. Remember to like and comment, and most definitely share these episodes with another woman that you admire and who truly inspires you. Or simply share with someone you would like to inspire. Enjoy. Welcome to Inspired Women Amazing Lives podcast, where we are seeking to help women be their most inspired so that they can live their most amazing life. I have a guest here today who is really focused on helping you to do that. And at, she's going to give you some tips that can help you just really up level your productivity. So my guest here today is Anna Salvo, and she is a life productivity coach. Anna is a mom, wife, speaker, and course creator for working moms. She helps working moms reclaim the hours so they have the energy to juggle it all. Doesn't that sound great? I know I want some of that. Her passion is helping moms to get ish done so they have time for the fam and themselves. I love that. Anna, welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
Yes. So we're so honored to have you. We all need productivity tips. And so this is awesome. All right. So Anna, if you will start by just kind of sharing your journey. How did you get to this place where you are a life productivity coach?
Yeah. So I was working full time. I was a teacher for years and years and years, 11 years. And, several years in, I was married, I had a daughter, and she had sports. And, I was trying to make sure that we ate dinner every night, had the laundry done. And all of a sudden I was laying on the couch one night. I was exhausted, right? And I look over, the laundry is overflowing. I didn't know what was for dinner. And, my daughter comes up to me and she asks me, Mom, what's for dinner? And I lost my mind. Like, let's be honest, I turned into the mommy meanie and just kind of unloaded on her. And it made me realize, you know what? I had to get what I call my ish together, right? I had to figure out how to juggle it all, is what I say. And so that is where my passion comes from. So I kind of dove into, what does it look like to be able to do this? I mean, I knew there were successful women out there doing this, right? They were juggling their lives in a way that felt in alignment with who they were, who they wanted to be. And so I did a lot of research and I invested in programs, to the point where my husband's like, what are you doing? But I needed that for myself because it felt like there was just so much pressure all the time to be everything. On top of it, I was working 60 hours a week. I was in the car an hour and a half, 3 hours a day. And I just felt like there was I kept saying there's not enough time. And, I remember turning to my husband one night, rolling over in bed and being like, there has to be a better way. And he's like, well, this is just kind of how it is when you're an adult. And I said, I don't accept that as reality, And I think that that's what it takes, is just kind of getting to the point where you're a little bit fed up with wherever you are, and you're willing to do the work to make the change. And so productivity became my passion, efficiency became my passion. And what I'll talk about today a little bit more is kind of taking you out of the equation a little bit more.
Awesome. Oh, I love that. Yeah, I know. And being a teacher, I feel like, listen, I feel
thinking about it.
Yes, it's exhausting thinking about it. And I feel like, when I see military people, I always thank them for their service. But when I see teachers, I always thank them for their service as well. I really do. Because you are doing a service when you're a teacher, and most of the time you're underpaid, and you are working 60 hours a week.
Yeah.
It is so thank you for your service.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And it is it's like motherhood, you give and you give and you give, and you have to be willing to kind of look at it and be like, where do I fit into this equation? And that's kind of actually where my starting point was, is how do I become the most efficient teacher so I'm not working 60 hours a week, right? And then that snowballed, translated into motherhood. And now I'm just obsessed with it. Anytime where I'm like, this is taking too long, or like time sucks, I'm like, we got to make a system out of this process.
Right. Absolutely. I'm glad you can see the systems and all of that. Because, one of the things is, for my business, is I help women make business simple.
Right.
Just because I like simple. And having those productivity hacks will keep things simple. So yes, so happy you're here to share that with us.
Yeah, me too.
So now, just so my audience has a clear understanding of what a life productivity coach does, can you explain to us exactly what you do as a life productivity coach? Is it specific to business or life in general, or both? And just kind of give us some examples of that.
It really translates to two different categories. I have coaching clients that I coach in areas of their business to make them more efficient so that they have time for their priority. It's not always our family that is our priority. And I know for a lot of us, that's like, but sometimes at that moment, if you're building a business or you're trying to create more time freedom, your priority is a little bit different. And so it's really identifying that priority, carving out the time to dedicate to it, and then still carve out time to do the things that make you sort of we call it, juggle it all, or balance. Balance doesn't always look perfectly balanced, but it does look like an area that feels really good. So I might coach you in business, where we meet one-to-one and we talk about how the processes in your business impact how much time you have, and how you can get the time to work on the area that is going to make you feel the most balanced. And I say feel the most balanced because, like I said, it's not always like this. Sometimes it kind of looks like this, but that feels like that's how you want it to be. Whereas sometimes it's in working moms' lives. So somebody who's working a 9-to-5 job, or like how I was, 60 hours a week, it's creating systems, routines, and strategies at home so that you aren't feeling like you have to do it all everywhere. And again, identifying that priority in your life and creating the time to do it so that you can show up. I mean, my group is called Show Up, show up for yourself the way that you show up for everyone else. And that's not just kind of emptiness we throw around the word self-care a lot, but it's not just, like, oh, I'm going to take that time to go have a bubble bath. Sometimes it means taking time to, carve out a little bit more, discipline to time block, or to maybe you dedicate a day just to laundry. We find what that looks like in your life, customize it to your life so that you feel balanced again.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It can transcend, it can be a combination or it could be two different categories.
Yeah.
That's nice. Um, when you mentioned balanced,
Mhm.
um, okay, I'll just tell you, I pitched that word balance out of my vocabulary. I
Okay.
did. And the reason why is you mentioned pretty much why, because balanced isn't always balanced.
Mhm.
And even just saying the word balance for me, I felt like I was doing this. And, so I pitched it and I said, you know, because I'll tell you there's a lot of advice out there on how to be balanced. And, I, I came from corporate way back when that term balance, life balance
Mhm.
and life and work balance first started. And it was like, oh, we thought it was amazing back then, but now to me in business it feels so unbalanced.
Mhm.
So I love the fact that you're not just handing out a sheet of paper and saying, all right, here's some tips for having balance.
Mhm.
But hey, let's sit down and take a look at everything that you're doing and let's figure out for you what that looks like. For instance, you mentioned time blocking. Time blocking works great for me,
Mhm.
but I've had some clients where time blocking does not work well. They hate it. So we pitch it out.
Mhm.
So yeah, I love
Yeah,
that.
and that's a really good point because it really does look different for everyone. It's a tool, right? And so maybe the tool looks a little bit different for you, or how can we use this tool in a way that really does work for your life versus, okay, well, you have to follow this formula for it. Like for me, I kind of joke, I said, well, there's a myth out there that to be productive, you need to be a very structured person. And I joke that I waste more time probably than anyone because that's what I've created for myself. I've created the space to be able to, you know, just sit or to just do something that I want to do. But and that came through time blocking, but it doesn't always look like, okay, from 7 to 8, this is what I'm going to do. From 8 to 9, this is what I'm going to do. Sometimes it just means understanding how long things take so that you can move them around in your schedule and create flexibility. So I always say that structure creates flexibility. Because you know where your time is going, which I'll talk about in a little bit with the productivity hacks.
Yes, definitely. I want my audience to hear you say that more because a lot of time my clients don't believe that structure creates flexibility. So I definitely want you to delve into that so they can hear that. Um,
Yeah.
awesome, awesome. So on your website, I pulled this quote out of there. I love it too. You said, live life beyond exhausted.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds, I love that because it sounds like it gives me permission to exhale,
Mm-hmm.
that I can live life be so beyond exhausted. So I love that. What do you think it is about working moms being exhausted that really just grabbed your attention and made it your passion to want that for other moms? What do you think it is about that?
I think because I lived it, I was in the thick of it for so long, like to the point where I was driving out to work, had to stop at McDonald's to get myself dinner, driving on the way back home for work, stopping and getting my McDonald's. And not that that's bad. Some nights that's what life looks like, but that was like weeks and weeks and weeks for me. And, I grew up as in it a child in a single parent home, and that was our life for a long time too. And we do the best we can with the resources that we have, and I wanted to be able to provide more, just more like of myself, to my daughter, but also be able to provide more of myself to myself and to my significant other, and so I felt very passionate about that. And I was like, you know what, if I can figure out a way to do this, there's going to be so many moms that, like you said, feel like they can finally exhale. And as I go out there and I talk to moms, every time I hear, they're like, well, there's just not enough hours. There just aren't enough hours to do it all. And I say, there are enough hours, but you're right, you can't do it all, and we have to kind of dispel that myth that juggling it all or balance does look like doing it all. It doesn't. It looks like, with my system, I call it decide, delegate, and do. You decide what's important to you. And then you ditch what's not important to you and delegate that out to other people, either your family or maybe even paying for services. And then you do it. You do it without guilt, which is the other thing that we experience as moms. And I had that so bad. So that's what makes me passionate about it, is that I lived it. And then I saw, oh my goodness, there is another way. And I wanted to give that to more moms out there, because I still, to this day, hear it all the time. There aren't enough hours. There aren't enough hours there. And I just want to be like, there are enough hours, but you're right. You can't do it all.
I have in my coaching business, I've created some practices that help me to relax, some practices that help me to not have stressful days, those kind of things. But even in spite of all of that, I still have those days where I say, God, can I please have just 2 more hours a day? Just 2 more.
Yeah.
Because it feels like it just goes so fast. And so, yeah, I fully see that. Well, thank you. I'm so glad this is your passion. And Anna, I must say, I'm looking at you and I'm thinking, she couldn't have lived all of this because she only was 19.
I get that a lot.
Like, there's no way she could have lived any of this because she is only 19. Oh, wow.
I know. I look very young, and I joke about it all the time. We joke about it in my home that I don't look like a normal adult, but I promise because I'm like 5'2", and I'm short, and I have a baby face. And
yes, you do. That's wonderful. Keep that as long as you can.
Yeah, I know that everyone says that. They're like, okay, just appreciate it for what it is. I'm like, I know, but people think I'm 16.
Oh, yes. Appreciate it.
Good problem to have. I know.
Yes, it's a good problem to have. So, you also, on your website, you talk about getting back more energy. Mm-hmm. So how do you help women do that? Energy is something, it ebbs and flows, and we think to ourselves, if I could just get a 20-minute nap, or I could just rest for a half an hour doing something I want to do. How do you help people get more energy back? Because we seem to always have a shortage of that.
It does feel that way. And I think part of that comes back to, like, in my journey, it's a different entry point for everyone. It doesn't have to look like time blocking as your first thing that you start with. We kind of, in my coaching practice, we uncover where your priority is. Where is the area that's going to kind of like rise everything, right? And so for some people, that's their physical health. And so I have a course that kind of takes you through the process, not for weight loss or any other purpose than to just show up. That's kind of a tagline in my whole business: show up and develop some health habits that will help you rejuvenate, have more energy, and just feel better. Because once you kind of break in that one area, right, then you kind of see everywhere else where you're like, oh, well, that wasn't so bad. I can go work on this area for a little while, and then I can go work on this area for a little while, which right now in the state that a lot of people are in, they're like, that's another thing adding to my plate. But just taking that 30 minutes to go, go for a walk, or 30 minutes to, do a workout, or even like something as simple as getting enough water in a day. Though we overlook those things all the time because we're rushing from thing to thing to thing. Or worse, we don't eat enough, because we're like, oh, I don't have enough time. I don't have enough time. So finding strategies and systems in people's lives to make sure that they're taking care of their basic needs. Because like I said, we overlook those a lot as something that contributes to our energy, and building behaviors around them. So it's not just another thing on your to-do list, right? That's not the goal, is to add more to your plate. It's to add the right thing to your plate so that you feel like you can tackle the other things. So kind of like the domino effect. But also another way that we regain energy is through just delegating things or creating routines around things. We don't talk enough about decision fatigue and the fact that we are making so many decisions in a day that are the same decisions we made yesterday. And if we are making routine decisions like that, we can create a system, or like I said, a routine, which is different. A system is like something that you create and you put into place, like your laundry system or your meal planning system. Whereas, a routine is like just something that you do every day, like set out your clothes, we can create those things intentionally in your day so that by the end of the day, you're not feeling like, oh my gosh, I got run over by a truck, which, or like pulled in a million directions is another way that I hear a lot of people describe it. So yeah, creating those things, creating systems in your day, creating routines. But I learned about decision fatigue as a teacher because think about 25, 30 kids coming up to you every day and asking you something different. Can you tie my shoes? Can we do this today? Can we do that today? And I had to learn that no was my default answer to everything. And that way I wasn't making a million decisions all the time about every little thing. And I could preserve my energy and focus it on the things that mattered.
I'm just taking notes here.
Good.
Because I love to review these notes for myself, and then I give my audience these great show notes about nuggets that you've said. Anna, decision fatigue. Whoo, that's huge. That's the word for that. I'll talk about how many decisions we make in a day. Yeah. And a part of me keeping life simple for me is I try to eliminate those. Yeah. I was just telling my sister this when I saw her over the holidays. I had lost some weight. Mm-hmm. And what I learned during that journey was that the key to keeping that weight off for me was me having a food routine.
Yes.
So I ate the same thing for breakfast, and it doesn't bore me. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner with small changes to it, but the basic things were the same. And it was easy for me to shop for those things, have those things in my refrigerator when I needed them. My grocery list was pretty much the same. It was just those small routines that made life so simple for me, because I always knew what I was going to the grocery store to pick up, whether I had a list or not. I knew I didn't have to get up in the morning, like she says, and she does this every morning. It drives me nuts. What am I going to have for breakfast?
Right.
Exactly. And just that decision in itself, it's like a 30-minute decision for her. When I stayed with her over the holiday, I was like, oh, get out of the way. Just let me cook breakfast for Christ's sake. I was like, you're taking too long to even decide what you want for breakfast. Whatever I cook, you just eat. So it's those little decisions like that are tripping people up. Wouldn't you say?
It for sure is, because it takes brain power, and like chemically, it takes brain power to do those things. And when you do that, you don't have the ability to make bigger decisions later. You're exhausted, or the harder part is we don't have the self-control anymore. Like we're just incapable of emotionally regulating, which is why we lose it on our kids or our significant other. And then we start, like, you're mentioning a weight loss journey. Then we start doing things like just grabbing the first thing that is available, chips or, whatever's in our pantry. And when we don't have those things set out ahead of time with routines, like you said, food routines or systems in place, a lot of my clients don't know what they're having for dinner, every single night. Just putting in a simple, system in place of how you're going to grocery shop, what that's going to look like, what your recipes are, where your recipes are located, is a game changer for people. Mm-hmm. But because we're so in survival mode every single day, we can't even think ahead 5 minutes, let alone make an entire system, which is where I come in. I can help with some of the systems and routines, developing it in a way that fits your life. But what you're saying is just keeping life simple. I love that, keeping life simple. And when it starts to feel like this, go back to your priority, go back to simple. What is the thing that I can do every single day that is the same, so that I'm not spending my energy and my brain power on things that I don't matter that much, you know?
Yes, I love that. I wrote that down as a tip. Yeah, I love that. Yes, survival mode every day. You're so right about that. Oh, wow. Yes, we are. I can
Yes,
agree to
we
that.
are.
So, we're going to take a quick break here for a commercial ad, and we'll be right back. When we return, though, Anna, I want you to share with us some time management hacks. We'll be right back. Hey, Kimberly Wiggins with Inspired Women, Amazing Lives here. Have you been dying to share your voice in a much bigger way to make even greater impact at what you do? Are you holding yourself back from being more visible in your niche? No surprise here. I know many people who are doing the same thing every single year and wishing they hadn't. You must decide to take action right now. Nothing beats that. So, are you ready to share your voice in a big way? I'm offering you the opportunity to finish off 2019 like never before, so you can look back and finally see the people you have impacted and the lives you have changed. Podcasting can help you do that. It will allow you to express yourself and be heard in a much greater way so that your message can add value to the lives of others. Isn't that what you really, really want? Check out my Podcasting Made Easy program right now at inspiredwomenamazinglives.com. Let's shift things for your life and business before 2019 is over. Use the code POD for 50% off the Podcasting Made Easy. All right, we are back. So, Anna, we are master jugglers, aren't we?
Yes.
We can juggle with the best of them, all women. Wow. So, give us your best time management hacks for us master jugglers out here who feel like we can do it all.
Yes. And that term juggle, is very, it's very fitting for what we do on a daily basis. We, as women, we are multi-focused. And so that's why when our husband leaves the socks on the floor or, wherever, like it drives us crazy, right? But then they don't notice it because they're just kind of focused on, they're single focused. And it's just a different energy. And so because we're constantly looking at everything, we are arm grabbed constantly. Sometimes figuratively, like, oh, our phone goes off, or, oh, we have to take care of it. Sometimes like literally our kids will grab us, or our husband, or a partner. And so the first tip that I have is always know where your time is going. So at the end of the day, like you feel like, oh, there weren't enough hours, just kind of quickly look over your day and look at where did you spend your time. I like to do kind of a retrospective time blocking with somebody when we're first doing this, so that we realize how much time we're spending on activities. Usually something that you can get done in 45 minutes to an hour can take some 3 hours, 4 hours, just because we're being pulled, constantly. So know where your time is going. Either you can use a time tool, or you don't even need a time tool. You can just write it all out if you need to, like, where did I spend my time on? Another thing that is a huge time suck, which I'll go into in just a second, is just like looking at your phone and going sideways, especially on an iPhone or something like that. It tells you how long you've been on your phone. And then you look at it and you're like, ooh, that's 4 hours a day. I could have been doing something else. I'm not saying you should never get on your phone. Everybody needs a little scroll time. But when we get honest with ourselves about what we're spending our time on, we realize, oh, I'm in control of my schedule. I am in control of where my time goes. Therefore, I can do something about it, right? It empowers us. Like, it's no longer like everybody's taking my time. And it's like, no, I'm in control of my time. I know where it's going. I know kind of how long things are going to take. And that helps a lot. Identifying and eliminating arm grabs is another thing, like I said. So where do you constantly get pulled? Where is it that you're kids need help with their homework, or it's a bad time of day to do something, or you're constantly getting interrupted when you're trying to do, identifying where those areas are in your life. Identifying obstacles is like kind of the biggest thing, because if you identify where you're getting those things, you can put boundaries in place to stop it. Or you can develop phrases that you can easily say to somebody, so you don't feel like you're constantly putting your kids off, or your significant other, or your work, or your friends, whatever area of your life that you kind of feel like, that you're juggling and maybe dropping the ball on. You realize where those arm grabs are coming in, and you can put some things in place to, solve the problem. Like maybe you put your phone away for a certain amount of time, take the notifications off your phone, during certain blocks of time. You set aside specific time with your family, so that way you can refer to it with your family. It's like, oh, I can't wait to spend that time with you, tonight for family game night. You have a specific time so that it's quality time. And you kind of just like focus on one thing at a time, just for, the time that you're working on it. The last thing, and probably the biggest thing, is taking you out of the equation. So what do I mean by that? Looking at your life and seeing like what could be done automatically. So like you said, can you systemize what you eat for breakfast, or make a routine out of what you eat for breakfast every single day? I do the same thing. Making systems in your house that anyone can use, including your partner or yourself, even your kids. My daughter is 14 years old right now, and she makes dinner one night a week, right? So offloading some of those things to other people, creating a sense of teamwork in your house, even when they're little, and building that into the culture in your home, so that everybody kind of helps out when you have something else that you need to do, right? And have set days and times for certain tasks. So again, with the arm grabs, we lose so much time a day simply by context switching, So if we're like, oh, my phone just showed up. I'm using a lot of phone examples, but my phone just and you look at it, even if you don't even answer it, your brain has to decide whether or not you're going to answer that message. That takes you away from what you're doing. And now you've just lost time. Again, that sounds very structured, but when you put those kind of blocks into place, you have so much more free time. It's just like, okay, well, I'm going to put my phone down for a little bit, and so I can go take care of this other thing. But having set days and times, like don't do laundry just when anybody willy-nilly needs it, train your kids to do their own laundry. I say as early as 8 years old, maybe even sooner, if you trust them with the washer and dryer. I know that was a huge thing in our house. My husband had to be okay with like my daughter using the washer and dryer.
Yeah.
And, instead of doing tasks for others, teach them how to do them for themselves. It's kind of the whole adage, teach a man to fish, like teach your children, teach your significant other, teach the other people in your life how to find that information on their own, how to take care of something on their own. Because not only is that a lifelong skill, but it's going to free you up to do other things.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Those are amazing tips. I'll tell you, you gave phone examples, but the phone examples are such good examples because so many people spend so much time in their phone doing that. And I will tell you, one of the greatest things that I ever did, you mentioned it, in your time blocking, I would time block, and like I said, it works for me, which is no more than I'm spending this time working on this specific task in my business.
Right.
Right. But my phone notifications would go off all the time. Mm-hmm. And I wouldn't answer them, but I'd look at them. Mm-hmm. And I'd have to decide whether or not I was going to answer them. You hit it right on the head. And there were times I decided I would, and it took me down a rabbit hole.
Yes.
So it is. So now what I had to do, I just had to bite the bullet and say, all right, when I'm time blocking and I'm working on this specific thing, I'm putting my phone on do not disturb.
Yes.
And then I won't even, and it's just those simple things. You are so right about that. The tip you gave about the screen time was gold on my iPhone, because you're right. I can look at that and literally see. Um, and I have certain days to work in my Facebook groups,
Mm-hmm.
certain days for that. And some of that I do on my phone. So I expect my my screen time to be high on those days. But I got to watch out for the days that I don't have designated. Why is my screen time so high? Thank you for that. Very good tips. I love it. Love it.
Yeah, and you mentioned like it takes like brain power to be disciplined about not getting on your phone because it's kind of a veg out tool. And so when we are like systemizing a lot of the other decisions in our life, it allows us to have that discipline, to make the choice. Okay, well, I'm gonna put my phone down for a little bit, or whatever it is, whatever your kind of time suck is. It could be that you're getting pulled to go help with things you don't need to do. But either way, you have that discipline to be like, oh, I'm going to offload this task onto somebody else, and teach them.
Yeah. And trust me, I definitely, Anna is spot on, audience, on some of her tips here, because like I said, I do some of the time blocking myself. And I know you think it's going to really structure you too much, but it really frees me up, because I know when I'm done with my time blocking for the day, I've done everything that I wanted to do that day.
Mm-hmm.
And so then I'm free. I'm looking around and I'm saying, now what can I do with all my free time? And it feels good to make those decisions, Anna, for me to be able to say, oh, I think I'll lay here and read a book, or I'll see what my grandkids are doing. I'll and connect with them, or take them somewhere. It just feels so good as a business owner to be able to do that. And I know busy moms will think the same. It feels so good to know that, all right, I've got it all out of the way. Now what am I going to do with my time? And that's a good decision, because you get to choose the fun things you want to do.
Yeah. And, for some people too, though, it's like kind of unnerving. And so I kind of want to bring that up because,
Oh, yeah.
you have this free time all of a sudden, you're just like, and you fill it. And
Yeah.
that's another thing, like when you
Yeah.
create the time and the space for yourself, fill it with the things like you're saying that you're making the decision to do something that you want to do. Now, if you want to get ahead on something, just empowering yourself enough to know that that's a decision you're making. Nobody's forcing you to make that decision.
Right.
But I think we get a little bit, used to being so busy that it feels uncomfortable at first. You don't have like you don't feel that way anymore. And I know for me, I've had to make that conscious decision too, like filling it with the right things versus just filling it with more tasks.
Yes, Anna, you're right. And that's an empowerment tool. You're right about that. When I
Mm-hmm.
first empowered myself to do that, it felt wrong, because I still had a to-do list.
Mm-hmm.
Although I'd done everything on my list for that day, it still felt wrong.
Yeah.
And I had to force myself to do the fun things. And then I realized, it's not so bad. And I shouldn't feel so guilty.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
You have to kind of deal with the guilt piece as well when you're working through the coaching part of it, because we do feel guilty. We're used to being pulled in a million directions. It's sort of a behavior. And so being able to shift that, but also shift the mindset piece, like it's okay for me to do this right now for myself, or to have a little bit of veg time, or to do something that I want to do. I'm choosing to do versus feeling like you have to do it.
Yep. And that's, that it's so important. A good coach comes in right there. That's where they really help you to get over those feelings of guilt. And, Anna sounds like in her practice, she can help you through all of that by being able to help you through the productivity, the mindset, because there is a mindset shift in that, a huge mindset shift. And so, yeah, that's very, very important. You won't be able to get there by yourself. I think a coach really is very important for that.
Yeah.
All right. So Anna, a little bit of coaching here. I'm a busy mom. Let's say I'm a busy mom wanting to work on my business part-time, but can't find time or the energy to work on it. What is the most two important things that you would coach me on to help me find just more peace overall in that area so I can work on my business part-time?
Sure. So, I mean, kind of going back to the tips that I provided first, so I think a solid morning routine is kind of essential. And I coach my clients on just starting small. Like, we don't necessarily have to get up an hour earlier. Like, yes, that's great with a 6-minute morning routine and where you do 1 minute of each activity. And we build that and you can lengthen it as you go. So that's the first thing, is creating like some kind of morning routine where you're kind of centering yourself before the day starts so you can be intentional about where your time is going. And, identifying obstacles before you start the day, and, thinking about where you can have routines and stuff like that. So that would be the first thing, like, okay, let's get you up a little bit, just get a little taste of what it feels like to have a little extra time, right?
Yeah.
And then, really blocking out, and it, like I said, it may not work for somebody to do a time blocking tool, but being intentional about how much time you need by getting very specific about your tasks. So creating like days that you're going to be focused on something, and creating, understanding where that time, how much time you need, protecting that time, saying, okay, well, I need 2 hours a day. I'm going to do that during this time, which means you need to look for what obstacles are going to come in the way. Maybe you're part-time, maybe you have a little one at home and you need to find an activity that's going to occupy them, or you need to hire somebody, whatever that looks like. And obviously there, what we would talk about is, what would it look like for you to not be interrupted during that 2 hours? I'd ask that question.
Good.
And then, okay, what do we need to do in order to put some obstacles in place so that you're not interrupted during that time? And then kind of getting to the point, okay, well, can we offload this onto another person? Or can we create an activity for your little one? If they're a little bit older, you can, protect your time a little bit better. My daughter knows. She's like, I know that that's your time, Mom. I have a little like note on my door, like, this is my time. She's like, you really need your time, Mom. I was like, everyone does,
Nice. I love that. This is one of those instances I can truly say, I loved all those suggestions, that as a coach, you are truly being a guide on the side.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you are in an instance where you're a busy mom and you're overwhelmed and you're frustrated and you feel like your day is never ending, you need someone to come into the middle of that and really create order out of all that chaos.
Yes.
And the coach for you at that point is so essential, because they're truly like a guide on the side that's really guiding you through that chaos to some clarity. I love that.
Yeah. And sometimes I mean, like it's just creating a little bit of space so you can see the potential. There is more out there than just feeling pulled in a million directions. And, for, as you a coach and as me a coach, like we come in and we kind of create that possibility and give somebody a little bit of a taste of what that feels like, and then coach them through the process of how to get there.
I love it. I love it. Yeah. A coach like yourself is essential especially when people are just trying to find space to start this thing, because it helps them find the space. That's normally, I'll tell you, Anna, with my clients, that is the biggest issue, finding the space. If I could just if I had a dime for every time a client said, if I could just find an hour a day.
Mm-hmm.
Can you imagine 1 hour a day? I feel guilty when they say that because I have more than an hour a day.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I do too. But that was intentionally creating that over years and years, and paying for coaches and, paying for courses and reading books and really taking my time back, being empowered enough to take my time back. And I want to empower more working moms to say,
Yes.
You can do that too.
Yes.
You can do that too. And it helps in the very beginning, but it also helps as you grow and you, have more tasks to do in a way, when you're running your business. And how do we offload those so that you can continue to thrive in your business in the way that you want to show up for your business, right? Because, if you are an entrepreneur, or even if you work, you want to do your job for a reason that's fulfilling. And, but we get bogged down in the details a lot, so creating that again, where we can pull away some of those, like, those tasks that are not that fun, and create more space for you to do the things that are fulfilling and rewarding is important as well.
Very nice. Yes, you're so right. Now, boundaries. We didn't really touch on boundaries, so I want to do that here. They're super important.
Mm-hmm.
We as business owners and busy moms don't think about them enough. We just give away our time. We say yes to everything. I've had to put a lot of boundaries in place over the last 3 years. And audience, I will tell you, that is the most freeing thing. I have empowered myself to say no. Nope,
Yes.
doesn't work for me. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
And I do it with love and light, and I love on people after I've said no, and they can't be angry at me. They have to love me anyway. So Anna, tell us, how do you help with these boundaries? It's hard for people to say no.
I think really identifying in the beginning. So it's kind of that 3-part process, the deciding. First we have to decide what we're going to be spending our energy on, so we know what to say no to without guilt, and then being able to delegate things is part of having boundaries. Being able to offload those tasks onto other people, saying, this isn't my responsibility. This is kind of a little funny story, but when my husband and I first got married, we would each do our separate laundry. And I remember he was folding the towels, and he's like, well, this is how you fold towels. And I'm like, great. That sounds like that's your job.
There you go.
That's just kind of our joke with each other. And it's the same thing. Like, he likes the dishwasher loaded a certain way. And so that's something that's his job. It's being able to offload tasks without guilt, and teach people how to treat you. Right. So deciding what you're going to do. Putting obstacles in place is also boundaries. And here's why: because you have to say no a lot less if you have these things in place ahead of time. So pre-teaching these things. If you need me, this is when I'm available. Just putting like a sign on the door is a boundary, when there's a sign on the door, that means we don't open the door. And then following that up with, reteaching people. I always teach my clients that setting the boundary is not the hardest part. It is following through. And when somebody kind of comes back at you, right? A boundary is like, the first step is setting it. And then you kind of have to hold it, and that's the hardest part, because we start to feel guilty, and we're like, maybe I overreacted, and I don't want to not have any friends ever again. And suddenly our boundary goes like this. So the hard part is not setting the boundary. That's the easy part, in my opinion. The hard part is holding the boundary and being able to say no and feel okay with it, or at the very least be able to walk yourself through the process of why you're not spending your energy there right now. And, the last part is saying no. Like, my default answer to everything is no, which means that I don't answer people right away when they ask me to do something. I make sure that, I look at my schedule. I think about it, creating that space for yourself that you can be like, I'll get back to you on that,
Yes.
Or, like I said, pre-teaching it, only certain days you have meetings. As a teacher, it's very easy to get sucked into meetings after school. This is when I'm available till, and being able to say it in a positive way, like you said, preserves your relationships. I'd love to do that. Maybe we can set up a time next month, or maybe we can set up a time on Saturdays, because that's my day that I have free.
Right.
Being able to do that with love and grace for the other person can preserve your relationships, but also empower you and be like, I got this.
Yes. Yes. And I'll tell you what I did recently that was so empowering for me. So a lady from my church asked me to do something on a church event. And I didn't say no immediately, although I wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
I did exactly what you said. I said, I'll get back to you.
Mm-hmm.
But I already knew I was going to say no.
Yeah.
But I had an idea. I said, you know what? I know someone that would be great for this committee, and they would be great for it. And I bet you they'd love to help. Mm-hmm. So I went to them and asked them if they would be interested. And they were so excited. They were delighted. So when I called my friend back, I was able to tell her, no, I'm not going to help you with this event, but I found you someone that will. And they're so excited. They're great at this. They want to help. And it was a win-win for both of them. They were both excited. Now I've got, my friend was always a great friend, but now I've also found another friend. So it was great. And I love making connections. Oh, so
I love that. I love that because you create, like you said, you created a relationship instead of where our fear is that we're going to cut off our relationships or somebody's going to be mad at us. And, somebody might be a little bit at first, they might be like, ugh, but over time, if you're very secure in it, that's where we work on the mindset stuff. If you're very secure in it and know exactly where you want to be spending your energy, you can not only preserve relationships, create new relationships and feel okay about it. Eventually people kind of realize where your boundaries are and you don't have to work so hard to hold them up. But in the beginning, it is a little bit challenging.
Yes, absolutely. Nice. So, Anna, you have a free gift for my audience. You want to share that with them? It's your time tool. Can you tell them about that?
Yeah, so my time tool is it's kind of like a week's worth of time blocking or time journaling. So I call it two different things. You might use it as a time budget. I say every minute on paper, and it might be very, very rigid. Or you might use it just to kind of evaluate where your time is going or how long things generally take. So it's either an awareness tool, an assessment tool for you, or it's something that you can use to plan your week. It takes you through that process, and then it has a journal in it as well. So you can kind of reflect back and see, how do you feel now that you have this extra time, this extra space, so that you can continue to feel motivated to continue building that behavior.
Very nice. Yes. And you can get Anna's time tool at her website at annadesalvo.com. And I will have all of her information in the show notes. You can find Anna everywhere. And she has a Facebook group, Show Up Mamas. Love it. She has a Facebook group that you can join, and she's on Facebook, Pinterest, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn.
On all the places.
Yes, all the places. I love that. And I will put all of her links on the show notes so you'll be able to reach out to her and ask her any questions or solicit her help in any way. Anna, now I asked you about an unusual thing, and I'm dying to know about this because you said you're obsessed with cottage cheese. And I want to know why. And you're afraid of butterflies. It eats with their feet. Yeah. Okay, tell us about this.
It's creepy.
I've got butterflies in my background. I love butterflies.
So they are beautiful. I will not. But when I see them in person and I think about them landing on me, first of all, the tasting piece, but also I think of them as a bug. You know what I mean? And so I want to hit them, but they're so pretty that I feel very conflicted about it. So I just would prefer to avoid butterflies if at all possible. My mom used to go to, they had an exhibit here at the zoo where you could go in and they would land on you. And my mom was like, this is so beautiful. And I'm like, that sounds like a nightmare to me.
All those little feet.
Yeah. Just tasting you. That's always creepy. Yeah. And I love cottage cheese. I don't know why I love cottage cheese. I just eat it every day. And my husband, every single afternoon or every single morning, we check to see who has eaten more cottage cheese over the day. We buy 2 48-ounce containers a week. And we eat through that in a week. So both him and I love it.
Wow.
It's good. It's just a quick protein and it's really easy. And like you said, it's a food routine. So I get home, I eat a little bit with some carrots, and I'm good for the afternoon.
I have never really acquired a taste for cottage cheese, but I've got to try it because it sounds like you said, it's a good dip for my veggies. So
yeah, that's what I use it for exactly, because it's a protein, but then it also get a little bit of veggie in there as well. Yeah, it's good. I love it. And everybody knows, they're like, Anna, are you craving cottage cheese? I'm like, yes.
Very nice. Now, one of your favorite motivational quotes, and you'll see this quote again, Anna, and I'll tell you why in a minute. It says, when you want something, all the universe conspires in helping you to achieve it. That's by Paulo Coelho.
Coelho, yeah.
Coelho. Okay. I love that though. When you want something. Why is that your favorite quote?
I think for me, it's so empowering to think that we have the ability to want something
Oh,
and dream for it and then create that vision. But that not only that, but we will be supported in it. And there's been so many times in my life, I, joke about this all the time, but there's been so many times in my life that I've been very clear about what I wanted. It's like not when you have that static in your head, but been very clear about what I wanted. And it showed up for me, and it showed up for me and I was open to receiving it. And so, I think that's why I'm passionate about finding your priority, because you need to focus in on really what you want. It doesn't look like what everyone else wants. Maybe you aren't the mom that like makes the bake sale cookies, or maybe you want to be that mom, but whatever it looks like for you, right? Understanding what that is so that you can intentionally put it out there and create that life. Not only that, but you'll find the support out there over the years. I have been a mom. I've been a single mom. I've gone to school full time. I got my master's degree when I was a single mom. Every single time in my life that I've put out there what I wanted to do, I've had to work for it. I mean, it doesn't just show up on your doorstep, but right. the world supports you in that decision. And I think that's so comforting and it's empowering. And that's what I want to kind of empower other women to realize, is that there's support out there. Let's find the life that feels so much better, than the one that you are currently living, trying to, create balance or, juggle it all.
yes. I love that. I love that. Love that. And Anna, you will see that quote again, because I'm sending you one of these beautiful mugs. These are my new mugs for my show. And right here where it says Kimberly, it'll have Anna on it.
Oh, wow.
Yes. So you, as a guest on my show, you will get one of these for free. But audience, if you would like one as well, stay tuned for the contest. You got to listen to this podcast to be able to answer a question to get this mug. And on the back of the mug, ta-da, that's where your quote will be.
How cool. I love it.
Yes. It'll be really, really nice. These are my new mugs for my show. I wanted to show that to you, but you get one for free, Anna. And
Thank you so much. I love that. And I love that you are out there inspiring and empowering women as well, because we need as much support as we can get, right? We got to stick together.
Absolutely. I want women to know that, that they can do it. You may need help, and that's what we're here for, but you can do it. Mm-hmm. So Anna, thank you so much for being on the show. Before you leave, if you will give my audience, I know you've given them tons of tips, but if you could give them one tip they could put in place today to get things rolling, what would that be?
Ooh, that's a tough one. So I believe that the mindset shift is in your time is gold. Okay. And start believing, instead of saying, don't use the phrase, there isn't enough time anymore. Strike that from your vocabulary, and my time is gold. I have all the time I need to do the things that I need to do, and protect it by intentionally knowing where it's going. You have control in the situation. You have the power to create the space to stop feeling exhausted.
Absolutely. Love it. Woohoo. Yes, I believe it. You're right. The mindset shift. And we've got to watch our tongues. Stop saying, I don't have enough time. Yes.
Yeah, because you'll believe it, or you'll speak it into existence. You'll start getting pulled everywhere. It's so important to kind of just that small little shift, like, oh, I do have enough time to do the things that I need to do,
Yes. Thank you for that, Anna. And thank you for being on the show. You have given my audience a plethora of information that they can use. All of your tips were so timely and so good. Definitely. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for being here.
Of course. And thank you so much for having me and creating space for women to feel empowered and inspired.
You're welcome. You're so welcome. And thank you, audience, for showing up. And I appreciate and love each of you. Mwah, mwah. In this 2020 year, we're going to do some amazing, amazing things. Thank you for being here. Do not forget to rate, comment, and download this podcast. Share it with your friends. And we're off to a great start. Anna, we'll see you again soon. Audience, see you on the next episode. Goodbye. Thank you for joining me for this episode of Inspired Women Amazing Lives podcast, where we help women to be truly inspired to live their most amazing lives. Please subscribe to the podcast to be notified of new content each and every week. Please like, comment, and share with the woman who inspires you most or someone you would like to inspire. See you on the next episode. Goodbye.